Hey, it's Chad for Different Skill, bringing you some videos about ZX. I'm taking a break right now from my studying and my doing project things that I have procrastinated for a good, 2 months. And I'm just going to make a couple of videos. Why not, right? It's something fun. I actually enjoy making videos, I'm just saying. That's why I do it so much. It's not really because I care too much about the money. It's more because of, I like to talk to people. And yeah. And I'm not really talking to anyone right now because I'm really talking to myself, but it feels like I'm talking to someone, so that's okay. And before I get into this ZX stuff, I'm just going to... Now I'll just save it for a different video. It's all good, guys. It's all good. So for ZX, you can play different types of decks. So, well, and then you'll be like, Chan, no shit. And I'll be like, alright, I'll explain that a bit better. Each deck has a different strength and different weaknesses, but you can cope with those weaknesses and strengths with certain other things. So, being more direct to it, say for white, you generally will play a more aggressive themed deck because of the power that white has, the power of friendship, as the white player likes to call it, the power of friendship. Which means cards benefit on the field when you have more cards on the field, basically. You generally want to have a bunch of low-cost cards and pour out your hand onto the field so they can stay there, and that's when you start, doing what you're doing. So these two angels, they gain 500 for each other angel on the field. That's the meaning of power of friendship, if you guys didn't understand. So generally, you'll play a lot of lower cost. You'll have a good curve. And for those of you who don't know what a curve is, it's a term in Magic where you play one card that's stronger than the other each turn in succession. Now, why is this important? Because then it makes it so that it's harder and harder to deal with. I mean, if you're going to play a slow deck and you just go vanilla ignition attack, go, he goes vanilla ignition attack, you go vanilla ignition attack. This is kind of one of those things where you're both playing a deck that wants to be a bit more late game. Maybe one of the decks is a more mid-game based deck, and then he just needs a bit of time to get his cards together. Maybe he had a bad hand, but what you want to do in a more aggressive deck is to be able to have more cards than your opponent very early. Now, of course, you'd be like, well, that means you have to get ignitions, and I'm like, yes, you can do that, or you can, keep your cards on the field. So, one of the very, very powerful cards is this card. One cost minus plus 3.5k to a unit in your army square. This can easily help you, how do you say that? Get extra cards and get ahead. So if you're going first, say you go, okay, so let's take this out as a scenario. So this is your starter, and you just go, alright, play a card and attack them, and then you have your 3 mana and it's tapped. And then you're like, okay, he kills it, blah blah yada yada. You try to ignition, you miss, and whatnot. You go mana, play a card, attack again, and then if you have a card you can protect this with, this card can't because it has to target army square. But as an example, if there's other cards that can do this similar effect, you can protect your card, and then they'll have to deal with this and another card next turn. Or if you want to have a more, old Chan, why don't you just use cards that actually do things what you're talking about? Alright, so saying you're going second, and then this is your hand, your shitty hand. Which is not too bad. Let's give yourself this card instead of this card. And then they play a card up in front, and they attack. Let's say they're playing white as well. They attack you, and then you'll be like, heal. Of course, this card isn't very good for this situation, because it's 4.5, but let's say you have this. Say you're on the back end. Say this dies, and then it's like this, blah, yada yada yada, yada yada yada, and then they go attack, you go heal it, and then you can kill this next turn, and you play a card there, and suddenly you switch the flow of the game. I know this is a bad example, but, things just gotta happen. So the reason why you need a good curve in a deck is because it helps you get ahead. Because if, say something like this, 4 cost 6.5k, generally these aren't very good. But in a deck like white, where you want to have a good curve up and you want to be aggressive, you can just go attack, and then most of the time your opponent won't have a 4 cost 6.5k vanilla to meet yours. because 4 cost is really one of those times where you're just like, well, might as well just play a vanilla, like vanilla 3 cost, because to be honest, this is a waste of space if you don't plan on being aggressive. And if you plan on being aggressive, vanillas are like the best. Have like levels of each vanilla in each of your going up your curve. So you go attack, and then they'll be like, well, most of the time they'll be put in a bad spot where they either just go, I'll just chump block with this, which doesn't help because they'll just get it killed, and then you'll play another card and you'll direct them. But sometimes people will just be like, alright, then I'll just go balls out and attack your player card. Now the reason why someone would attack your player card is because then you'll have to play something here to deal with this, and then you can only get 1 damage in. And well, you get 1 damage in either way, but at least now you don't have to deal with 2 cards here. Because really, if my opponent played something here, I would just attack and leave my player square undefended. Because next turn, if they don't do something about it, they're just going to be taking 2 damage. It's fine to leave your player square unattended if you have their player square sieged. So, some things you have to really just make a call on. Sometimes they'll be like, alright, let's race, and they get double ignition, and then there's like, lol, and then they attack you, but shit happens, right? So sometimes maybe you just go double ignition, you just go lol, attack you too. The thing about this game is that the luck is there, but the luck only affects early game, which can either stop or help aggro. I mean, if you go, okay, first damage, and they get a heal trigger, which has happened, and then they get a free card, and they get their life back, and they attack you, now you're on the backswing. Or maybe they just simply get another ignition, and then they just, okay, fine, and then their ignition kills your guy, and then they push you back. So the reason why aggro is one of the, it's kind of a kind of deck, is because you really do need to rely on either your ignition or your opponent's ignitions. If ignitions didn't exist in this game, then just doing the 3-4-5 like curve would just go 3 cost vanilla, 4 cost vanilla, 5 cost vanilla, and then probably Creator of Genesis get a card back, double attack. Creator of Genesis is one of those very good cards. For 6 cost, for 6 mana, you get to put out at least 11k worth of power, which is, I mean, it's very good. You just go get this, revive out something like this, and then just go hua, and you double attack. Or you can just go attack, kill this, or you can play this here, defend yourself, play something up, attack, protect yourself. Having multiple bodies is better in the early game because they have to deal with more things. But in the late game, things like this card where it's just big, it's much more useful because it just doesn't die as easily. So, yeah, aggro. It's neat. Unlike some other game, which I will not mention, the term aggro actually matters. Because, you can't really have aggro when there's no resource system. It doesn't really make sense because everyone can do it. Okay, anyways, so yeah, that's the thing about aggro. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is how to come back from being aggroed and whatnot. So sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, GG, you're done, bitch, and then you drop your Orihaucon Tyranno and you kill everything. So this is a very blatant example of something you can come back from being aggroed. I would call this a stabilizer because generally you'd say, I hope I get to stabilize and do what I need to do. So as a 7 cost, you can probably hold out just by playing like 3 cost ignitions and just like taking a damage or 2. Generally you'll be taking like 1 damage, hopefully if you're lucky. Like if like nothing crazy happens, like they don't go triple ignition on you, and like they just get 1 and it's kind of back and forth, you'll generally take like 1 damage, maybe 2 if they get a decent amount more ignitions and you can't really deal with it. Then you play this card and you clear everything away. Now, they probably spent most of their hand playing their cards on the field, and if you can clear them all away with 1 card, like 1 stroke, that's just like, it puts a real stop to them. Now they have to go like, whoa, 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 whoa. And they have to start playing, they have to start answering your dude. Because if they just continue to go like, okay, like that, attack, you can just go like right back. And it's just, they're not going to get anywhere with it. So they have to start playing around your answers. So cards that are very good at stabilizing, as I like to say it, are these two, for very simple examples. One Orihakon Tyranno, very obvious. The reason I just stated that it just kills everything around you. It's one of those get out of my house kind of things where you just go get out of my house, and then everything's gone. Now this is kind of neat. I've been testing with this card, and I think it's a decent way to come back from something, because as long as your player card isn't open, you can always use this card on an early turn. So say if you go first. If you go first, this is very good for getting ahead. If you're going second, it's very good for coming back from behind. So let's just say we could play this card. So first turns, you know, you put your guy up, it dies, then you play your ignition, and you have like, what, 3 mana tapped. And I'm going to assume that this makes blue mana. And this card dies. Okay. And then you just go untap, blah blah blah, mana, blah blah blah. I don't have this card in my hand because that would just totally save me in this situation. And let's go like, okay, alright, so I'll attack. And then this card dies again. And then you go back and forth. But instead of playing this card, you could opt to just take the 1 damage. Maybe the 2 damage. So they attack you, and then you just go, okay, I'll take a damage, and then I'll use this card in response. And then you look at the top 5 cards. Of course, I suck at this game, and only got 1 ignition, but that's because I took out like all the ignition, like 5 ignitions already. And then you can just, okay, very simply, just a hand like this, like top 5 cards. Alright, this is not bad. So something I could use now. I could use this and this now, and this is my ignition. And you stack it back. And then, so let's say they have another card here and maybe a card here. Who knows? Then you draw your 2 cards, you untap with your 4 mana. Untap with your 4 mana, and you just go ignition, you get a card, and then you get another card, and then you can easily push them away. Let's push them out of your house now. So, this card can be used either very offensively or very defensively. Generally, you want to have something in your player square, and after it dies, then you can use this. Hopefully, you'll stack up 2 ignitions. I mean, 2 ignitions isn't really hard in a 50-card deck, getting 2 ignitions in the top 5 cards. Because you'll probably have your start card and the card you use to replace your start card with. Then on your next 3 drop, you'll probably play this card, and then you can, you know, come back. Because you get free cards, basically. If you get 2 ignitions, you basically will be in front of them now. If you get 1 ignition, you'll probably be stabilizing. Because if you have the 2 ignitions on the top 2, you can put 1 to defend, 1 to attack, and you play another card from your hand to direct, which is pretty good. So, let's just check the top 5 cards. And of course, see, there's 2, and you would probably stack it something like this. Because in an early turn, this is much more useful than this. But you're going to draw this anyway, so you're just going to go draw 2, and then get 2 ignitions off this. Of course, sometimes you don't get your ignitions, but it's all good. Now, cards that are very good at defending and attacking are something like this card. When you play this card, and you have another Horai on the field, you may tap to give it 3k. So it sounds very simple, right? But when you look at it like this, it is very easy to overlook the fact that people can't get over this card very easily. You'll have to either use a removal spell, which will then tap you out, and then you'll get directed next turn by something else, or you just can't play a big enough beater. 5 costs can't beat this. There's no 5 cost that can go over 9k. That's not situational as fuck. So you just go pump, and then you're defending yourself. So the choice, once again, that people have to make is that they go, alright, so I guess I'm just going to have to play this here and attack this, and deal with it like that. This card, along with the other examples that I showed, are just those things that you have to deal with, and it's hard. You really need to make the right decision. You have to go, okay, I hope I get an ignition off my first damage, and I limit my losses to 1 life. And then they'll have to just go 1 life and defend themselves back. So, well, what else are there? So, this is more of a mid-game card, a stabilizer, so to speak. Some other mid-game cards, I would say, are something like this. And where's the blue dragon? Give me my blue dragon and the blue dragon. These cards are very strong, so they're good all game long. Like, get it? It rhymes. So So they're very strong, but at the same time, they kind of start losing importance later. This card kind of more of a late game oriented card, but this card is very good for pop it down. People can't really deal with it. It's 11k for God's sake. It's huge, and you know, yeah, good stuff. But some cards suck all game long except for the very late game where you have like a bajillion mana. Cards like that are like Cardinal Blade or the Green Dragon. Things generally are very good late game is when they have a mana sink ability. Mana sinks are things you get to pour your mana into when you don't have anything to do with it. So that's kind of another term. So this Cardinal Blade, it will die the turn you play it. Unless you're at the very late game and you can do something to protect it. Like with his own ability. At 10 mana even, if you play this on the side, then you have 10 mana, so you have enough mana for one shot. His ability is pay 3, deal 8k to something. So you just play this here, and then there's like, I guess I'll just play a card here and attack it. And generally it will kill it. Like, even though you have an ability to do that, the only way, like, 8k is not going to save Cardinal Blade, because it deals 8k damage, and it doesn't minus power. So a card will easily just kill it. So this card will be very good in the very late game. We just go play it, shoot the fuck out of everything, or shoot one card and have enough mana to protect it with like a removal spell. Because they attack it, you go remove, like get it out of the way, and then you untap, you go shoot everything to death, and everything's dead. Similar enough to the Green Dragon. The Green Dragon probably will die the turn you play it if you don't have protection or you're not ahead. If you're really ahead, playing this is fine. If you play this, they just go Blue Dragon attack, or maybe just simply like 4, well, cost 4 and like any cost 3. That would sound a good example. Like any cost 3, double attack. It'll die really easily because if you tap out at 9 mana, they probably have enough mana to play 2 cards and kill it. I'm just saying. So yeah, these are the different types of cards. If you guys have any more questions or suggestions you'd like to know about ZX, just please comment down below. Because even though I play this game very often, like I play at least like once, maybe twice a week, and I do learn new things every day. Kinda. Sometimes things are kind of like, ooh, really? Like that day where I played against Amulet through the webcams, it was very awkward, I'll guarantee you that. And I figured out that the red decks aren't really all that bad. Because before I was just like, yo, red decks look like they suck ass. Because, let's be honest, like, Burn isn't very good. And then I was just like, okay, so I'm going to expect your deck to suck a little ass. And then it didn't. He completely raped me. Because it was so gay that every time he played a card, it did something that I just couldn't handle it and it just kept losing. That was annoying. So, I learned something new. Red is actually pretty fucking good. Who would have thought? So this is Chad for Different Skill, bringing you ZX content. Don't mind Hero doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't worry guys, for those of you, I saw a lot of hate, but whatever. Like, to be honest, I like Yu-Gi-Oh! A bit more than Vanguard myself. I have a deck, but I don't really play very often. I like to play ZX 100 times out of 100. Wait, that didn't come out right. I'd play ZX 100 times. I'd play ZX over Yu-Gi-Oh! 100 times out of 100. There we go. That came out properly this time. So yeah, see you guys later, and bye.